Welcome to our daily reflection for this Monday, June 16th. And today, the first reading from Paul's letter to the second letter to the Corinthians talks about hardship and struggle and affliction and labor and imprisonments, all the cost of discipleship that especially Paul as an apostle and those close to him are suffering in their ministry. And this actually relates to what Jesus talks about in the gospel today. And of course, we're in the beginning of ordinary time. And what I love is the church at the beginning of ordinary time takes us back to first principles. It takes us back to the basics. It takes us back to Jesus' Sermon on the Mount here. And we hear in the Sermon on the Mount, in chapter 5 of the Gospel of Matthew, verse 38 and following, the idea that you have heard that it was said. So Jesus is referring back to the old covenant. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, Jesus is elevating the law here, and that we're not just going to be held like we were in the old covenant to the bar of justice, but Jesus elevates Christian life. And what we aim at is not just simply to be moral, to do the right thing according to justice, but he raises the bar to the level of charity. And charity goes far beyond justice. It might be injustice. If someone takes out your eye, you don't kill them in response. You take out their eye. If it's tit for tat. But you have to be measured in proportion. Jesus is saying, no. Now in the new covenant, we're going to do something radically different. We are going to go to the level not of justice, but of mercy, of love. And so that means when someone strikes you on the right cheek, not only is it unjust to kill them or to maim them in response, right, to escalate, but you just turn the other cheek. You don't hit them back equally. That would be just. So again, it's not a matter of if you hit back, that's unjust and you've sinned. But Jesus is telling us to go beyond not sinning and beyond being just. That's one thing. If you want to live justice, you're in the old covenant. But what we're called to do as Christians is go far beyond that to the level of charity and love. And that's why what follows next Jesus is asking a lot. This is a bit crazy. What does he say? Look, if anyone wants to sue you and they want to take your tunic, for example, or if they want to take your cloak, that's fine. Give it to them. And if someone presses you to go 1 mile, go 2, which is what Romans could do, by the way. Romans could press anybody to do service up to 1 mile. He says, go the extra mile. That's where that phrase comes from, by the way. And give to one who asks of you, and do not turn your back on one who wants to borrow. All right. In other words, you could easily say no to someone who asks according to justice, but according to mercy, according to the law of love, where's the limit there? And now you might ask, well, why? Why give to one who is evil? Why forgive to the person who's evil? This doesn't make sense according to the measure of justice and in the world. And that's true. But Jesus is calling us to live according to a different rule, not the rule of justice and the world, but mercy and the kingdom of heaven. Because according to the kingdom of heaven, we're in it. We're citizens. We're Christians because God so loved us that he died for us and that God forgave us our sins. So he didn't treat us according to the level of justice. Jesus treated us and included us into the kingdom of heaven by his mercy, by his love. We don't deserve to be in heaven. We don't deserve to be a child of God. We don't deserve to be forgiven and washed of our sins. But God acted towards you and towards me by his law of love. And that's how he wants us to now act towards others. And that means a radical recalculation. Because Jesus promises heaven, and because he promises and gives us his love, we then are as Christians, we're true relativists. What does that mean? Christian relativism means our tunic, our cloak, our possessions, our time, the things of this world, they're relative. We can lose our possessions and not lose our happiness because we know that our happiness is in heaven with God and that he will right all wrongs and that he has given us more than we ever deserve. And so my tunic, my cloak, what does that matter when my sins have been forgiven and I've been washed by the blood of Christ, right? What does that matter if I know that I'm going to spend eternity with God in heaven? And that's why Paul, rewind the tape to the first reading, is willing to labor and give up and sacrifice so many things for the sake of this ministry, because he knows this life is but a passing chapter in a long, long eternal story, which will be where we will be in heaven with God. And so we as Christians relativize temporal goods and we absolutize the love of Christ. And that's how we should live. The world does the opposite. They relativize God and eternal things and heaven, and they absolutize temporal goods. And that's the way of the world, but we follow Christ. May we do so. May the Lord bless and keep you.